Hello and welcome to the Q&A for Fury's Fate. We are here with a wonderful cast that you've seen all season long. Tear up Port Nyanzaru and the surrounding countryside, and then a boat, and somebody's private island, and then each other for some different parts too. So, we're going to talk to them and see why they did some of the things they did, but we also want to share with you guys some really awesome things that we have coming up, and a little taste of that right now is going to be the new emojis that you'll be able to use if you're a subscriber. Emotes. Emotes.
To use the Twitch lingo. I know.
You can tell I twitch constantly. So the new emotes. Thank you, Tasha.
You're welcome. I got
That we always got my back. That we have coming up if you're a subscriber of the Maze Arcana channel. Let me know when that goes up. All right. Okay, so you guys would be able to see right now, here, that we have some pretty sweet emotes. You can find those in our chat or down in the below box where you go to chat when you click on the emotes. Or if you were to type in Maze Arc and Oh Hi, for instance, and you'll get a nice little Kyle. I'll let you figure out the rest as we progress through the evening, but RPG is in there, and that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Do they have to subscribe to get to those?
Of course you have to be a subscriber to get those through Maze Arcana. That's how Twitch works. So if they're going to make fun of me for not using the right words, they're going to know how to do the thing.
Yeah,
so
that huge one is going to come in handy big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Oh, and-
anytime she meows.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
And it's a ha-ha, like just that.
Yeah.
So also if you saw the satchel, you know that you should be drinking right now.
Satchel.
Satchel. That's 4 shots. Yes. All right. So let's go to our awesome cast over here. And we'll introduce them down the line. So we have Kim the Scorcher Horcher.
Do I talk or do you talk?
If you'd like to, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kim. I wasn't told what to do.
Nah, it's pretty relaxed here.
Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Dodger.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
Hey, I'm Sig Neutron. Hi, and I'm Kyle.
Okay, and now starting with Kyle, who did you play and what were you?
I played Captain Dorigas, and I was a swashbuckler.
Go ahead, Sig.
I was Lepad, a grung rogue/monk.
I played Emporo, who was a Chilton doctor, but also a wizard of the School of Reconstruction.
I played Reef Ambrose, and she was a thief inquisitor.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Miss you.
Bless you. I played Eden Allersoth, which is my last name, and I was a dragoon fighter.
I don't think I ever heard your last name.
I never said it because I forgot it for weeks.
Well, I thought that was actually the appropriate, like I thought that you knew not to tell people because of the attention it
Because I
might
was
draw.
undercover.
Yeah.
Undercover, why?
You
I
too?
guess you
More
No.
secrets.
No,
can't know. I can't know.
So while we are here, it says, I got a thing that said the mics are real quiet. So you can tell that we are missing Alex, who just touched down back from Tokyo and his game event. Playing Evo, yeah?
Yeah, he was at Evo Japan, but his flight was delayed,
So
he can't be here with us. In spirit, Yishnok is here.
Yishnok is
Yishnok
here. He
here.
played the Lizard Folk Grave Domain Cleric. And for anybody that was there, and I believe under here it tells you what, but it's they were at level 8, and that gave them access to quite a bit of stuff. Even the ones that were multi-class had a lot of little tricks up their sleeves. So I think starting out, do you guys have any questions? First of me. For the campaign, is there anything that you're curious of while we're waiting for me to get fed the questions from the audience? Oh, I have it on the text message.
So no.
So think about that.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Question.
Thinking.
Just store it. Got it.
My
So
brain.
This looks like it's from Raptor McAwesomePants.
Great.
Nice.
What's up, Raptor?
Sounds good.
You were good in the campaign. We appreciated you jumping out of the bushes every now and then. Mr. McAwesomePants or Miss or they McAwesomePants said that asked what was the process in designing everyone's characters, and we'll go with this on more of like the backstory end of like how did you kind of use what was available in Schult, the materials that we were supplying you guys. How did you kind of like come up with your character's everyday ego and whatnot? I know that we had kind of the similar question for Brooke in the last Q&A.
Yeah, this question is interesting because I think it's different for everybody, right? Like some of us were given the opportunity to be like, this is what I would like to play. And then for somebody like me, the character was already established and I just kind of filled in.
Right. And you and I had talked in advance about like the idea behind Reef, because you actually couldn't join us because you were traveling.
Yes.
So when you were able to come in, I believe episode 6 of season 1 for Fury's Reach, that your character was established because there was already this long backstory with Ivan's character.
Yeah, I remember Satine texting me and being like, hey, we're gonna start a campaign and we want you to play Lady Indiana Jones. And I was like, great, I'm in. And that was like all that I had at the beginning, and then got more information after the game had been going for a few episodes. It was still really fun. That was the first time that I was given like a character that had a lot to them already and was asked to just kind of be that person. So.
And you also came in with like a different spin on who Indiana Jones, like what that would be, because that was part of your answer from last night. You didn't want us to be just that standard one, but you loved the idea that you were just stoked about adventure.
Yeah, I think I said this last time, the last Q&A that we did. But I came in and I was like, okay, Indiana Jones, I got this. And then after watching everybody else play before I was introduced, I was like, I kind of want to be like excited Indiana Jones. Like I want to be an Indiana Jones who's just like, yeah, let's go dungeon crawling and like go do stuff. This is going to be awesome. I feel like it worked out.
Oh, it was a great.
I think it did, yeah.
Absolutely.
It definitely gave us a lot of really. I remember the first time that you did the jump up, like got really excited about a thing, and it caught me by surprise, and I was just like, oh, yeah.
I think it really helped with me and Johan, my brother, in the last game as well, because he was very serious.
Yeah.
So it gave opportunities for him to like be like, you need to take this seriously. It helped, I think.
You were almost like the little brother, maybe the big brother, really, in that scenario where you were just like, come on, live a little, stop being such a wuss.
Yeah.
And he was so like just in this little.
People are dying.
Yeah. And you were like, yeah, every day, whatever. Eden.
Hi.
Kim, your character was something that we spent a few nights going back and forth over. What was your kind of touchstone? What kind of character were you designing it after?
You listed a bunch of beings that were possible, and I thought that one sounded like I liked it the most. I wanted to put more Little Mermaid references in, and that never ended up happening.
You were definitely part of their world, though.
Yeah, well, I wanted to name the weapon I have a Dingle Hopper.
Oh, yes.
But I think it has a different name.
That is an amazing
A
name for an
dignified
artifact.
name. Yeah, I remember we were putting it together, and she has this backstory that we never got into on the show.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it stuck to, I think, Triton archetypes, like very honor-bound and duty-bound. But she ended up being more like me than I expected, and that's probably because I'm not a real actor and I don't know what I'm doing. But I think there's a lot to explore if she ever comes back.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we have a little hiatus here coming up, and then everybody will bless you.
Sorry.
Shoot.
There was like a sneeze cough.
Yeah, I thought it was
No. I held it in for so long that it was aggressive.
A Kisneve.
Yeah.
Oh, there he's back there. Lepad representing that too. So I think that we didn't get to go into a lot of your backstory, but that's not really what a backstory is for, right? The backstory is to color a lot of the things you did. And if you hadn't just told us that, I would have assumed that you actually were playing Eden in a very particular way.
I was trying to do it in a certain way. I remember I had a slightly different cadence to my voice right away, but then I read later in my character sheet, you added things that I didn't look at right away. So it was like, this character speaks in a very formalized tone, using thee and thou instead of you.
Oh no, that was in there from the beginning. You just didn't,
No.
Because that was actually one of the, for your backstory, like for the background, that was actually one of the automatic ones that you can like randomly roll that's in the book.
Oh, that's so
Because
So-
I just thought,
Oh, that would've been fun.
I should have looked at this 4 weeks ago.
It's all good.
I didn't know.
You're undercover.
That's fine. You are undercover. Like that was the kind of that was kind of part of your backstory. So like the fact that you never told people your last name, I thought was fully intended because that's who, you have, like you said, this whole backstory that deals with a royal court and everything like that. And there's a big, like that's something that we can play with later when we come back from hiatus, which right now looks like it'll be in the summertime.
Yeah.
I know
But-
that Alex and I were actually talking the other night, and to us, like from our perspective, because we don't know you very well, we were like, it's so awesome that Kim has like really blossomed on this show. Because at the beginning, you could tell that you were very like, all right, I need to be like the character. And then I feel like it was the episode where you lost it at Lapad.
Yes.
And you were like, I feel so bad for yelling at him. And we were all like, why? That was awesome. I feel like it just like went up from there for
I
you.
still feel a little bad, but if it earns me points, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then you're telling me, since you were playing more yourself than the character at that point, you were actually mad at
No,
Sid.
no, that was like, I think when my character's being like kind of a sarcastic jerk, like when I say things to Kyle about wanting to punch him, that's for me.
That's
That's Kim.
Kyle and I know each other though.
Yeah.
Everyone else is new.
So there you go.
Yeah, and this was also one of your first times playing.
This is, yeah.
Yeah, so you actually jumped in pretty head first, and I think that you did as well as anybody that I've sat down at a table with, because you bought in. You like were fully invested in the campaign. You learned a lot of your stuff up front, and that was really helpful, I think, for everybody, because it's kind of hard to, especially for trying to plan out sessions and stuff like that, when and your character is very straightforward in certain ways. Fighters tend to be, but you also, like I said, you dove in, you learned the things that you needed to learn on that, and you were good. You at least were fast at finding the places on the sheet where you needed to grab your attacks from or things like that.
You gave me 3 spells and I didn't use one once.
Not once, but hey,
That's okay. You clobbered people so well.
Yeah.
yeah, and those are
Secure
spells from the
strings.
Trident, so it's okay. That's you use them where you need to use them, and otherwise don't worry about it. You'll learn how to be more tactical for the next season. We'll talk about like how you could have used Fog Cloud to
I thought
your
about
advantage.
that, but then it's just, how do I not blind everyone?
I would say use it like blocking
Yeah.
things in, like make a corridor, because they can't hit you either.
Yeah, I really wanted to use my boots that make everybody afraid of me, but then it turned out it would make literally everyone afraid of me, including
You have 2
my
pairs of
companions.
boots?
No, it's the same
Same
ones.
ones.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
the same ones. If I stomp really hard, then everybody in like in a certain area around me will be terrified of me. And I was like, this is gonna come in handy next time we're swarmed by people. And Rudy was like, you realize everyone's gonna be scared of you. And I was like, oh no, that doesn't help.
But you always ran away from us, so you were always over in the corner. So scaring the people away is not a bad thing.
Sure, yeah. Maybe I just needed to
thing.
make more of a ruckus.
Yeah.
Follow me!
And you, luckily, you still don't know what the curse on those are because you used them at the right time.
They're all cursed.
What?
Everything
That's what
except,
I said.
Everything except like Kim's trident, I think,
That
has.
didn't come from that weird wagon.
That's right. Anything that came from the wagon has some sort of curse on it. but-
Drawback.
Drawback, yeah. But that curse can be as simple as, like Lepad's is actually pretty simple. He still hasn't figured it all out. But it's pretty simple, and it's actually not that big of a curse. Like, it's not that bad of a thing.
Does Alec, did Yishnok ever figure out what is
Jug?
actually up with his jug?
As far as he knows, Jug is Jug, and Jug can make orange juice and water.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
I'm sure he has some idea.
I need to know more. Doug.
Emporu, well, actually, let's go back to some of the older, and then we'll come back to yours. We'll sandwich it in between. Let's say Sig. When you were writing up like a lot of your journal entries and stuff like that, you wrote a lot of them to Johan. Because of the experience that you two had in the first episode, how did your character kind of evolve for you? When did you start to feel like it was more of a, like it was actually more of a character instead of a stat sheet? Because I know originally, anytime you start a campaign, you don't really know who your character is when you generate them, but as you go, you start to get the quirks and stuff. How did you do that, and where did your accent come from?
Well, so for the accent, I don't know. I love doing voices, so I spent a lot of time just coming up with my own rules. Like, I would figure out, like, okay, I'm gonna pronounce P's as B's or something like that, and write out a little set of rules, and then just always stick to those rules, and it helps with like things. And then just think of like fun ways that a tiny angry frogman, what would they call things in the jungle? Like all any kind of reptile, it's some kind of tooth. Like the big tooth, the quick tooth. But that's kind of where I came with the voice. Season 1 was like a lot of fun because like you started out with the romancing the stone. Is that the reference, or?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of different things that were roped in there, but romancing the stone was the kind of the baseline idea for who Ivan's character Johan was, because he and I had talked, and he always likes to talk as a lot of 5e players do about how strong bards are and how bad they used to suck. And so, he's like, well, all right, well, then you should be a bard. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not going to sing, so, there's that. And I was like, you don't have to sing. Now I dared him. Like, I just started, like, making it worse for him. So then we came up with this idea, and he loved the idea of being an author, and especially an author of cheesy pulp romance novels that were based around his sister, Reef, but not being like the one of the characters of affection, but actually being more of a Mad Max character, walking from romance novel to romance novel, impacting the other characters, killing people, grabbing items or artifacts, or probably every now and then being that shoulder to cry on for the young maiden, telling her they don't matter anyway, Don't worry about that, Prince. There's a bunch of other ones.
I'll never forget. I think it was like one episode in after I had joined the group, and I heard about a book he had written where somebody bones a spider. And I was obsessed with finding out, is it me? Did I do that?
The Drowse Witch. The Drowse Witch, yeah.
You were the one who boned the spider. I was like, okay. I mean, if it was a hot spider, I don't know.
Isn't that the one that I was reading aloud as we were traveling, just to annoy him?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the one that he said that he just like cranked out. He's not proud of it.
Yeah.
He just needed to make money so he could come rescue Reef.
And everybody's like half dead and everything, and I'm just like pushing everybody's buttons. Let me just read this aloud.
Yeah.
That's right, because we found like the sack that was filled with the books.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the trunk in like episode 2.
Which we found.
Yeah. So, Kyle,
Yep.
you had Captain Dorriguez, and that was a carryover. You are the carryover from Satine's campaign. Her half of Fury's Reach, what was it, Road to Adventure?
Yeah.
And so what was, so when you were creating that character with her, that was a little bit different than the way that everybody else kind of came in to my campaign, or my half of it. And then you're literally the connective thread between her group, which had a certain run-in with a little red grung, and then my group, which had a certain run-in with a little red grung.
Yeah.
So your character, go ahead and tell us a little bit about Captain Dorriguez and your character arc from hers to mine.
Well, essentially, his character arc is how much worse can his life get? And I don't think we've hit bottom yet, because it just keeps going down every season.
Nobody died this season.
That's true.
So that
But he
helps,
still
right?
thinks Yishnok is.
That's true. Yeah.
He might be dead.
So, as far as we know,
Yishnok.
Yishnok got abandoned because he took on all the pirates and we ran away.
Get ready with those PG emotes.
So the original concept was he was this sort of...
Come here, PG.
swashbuckler trader guy who was there to pick up some items to pay off their reputation so he could save his crew and let them go home again. And in the process realized everything he was doing was getting more and more people killed, and said, okay, you guys, you don't want to listen to me right now because I'm just going to get you all killed anyway, so just go back and see what you can do with the stuff that we've gotten, and I'll see if I can figure out something. Then I came into this crew and was like, oh, what are we doing?
I feel like the Claw right now.
It's good.
Yes.
It's a good look for you.
Blofeld from James Bond. It's cool.
I feel like you, for like the entirety of this season, wound up being more of the serious person to counteract the nutsness that was like Yishnak and the whole
Everybody.
Except for Eden. Eden was pretty serious.
Eden was also very serious.
I also didn't know what I was doing, but you did know what you were doing. So there's that balance.
You need those. Yeah, you need those balanced.
I tend to get cast as the straight guy anyway. Like he's the one that all the jokes go around, and he's the normal person who just kind of reacts to all the craziness.
Right.
You two are the mom and dad of the group.
Yeah, it's why Kyle works so hard on his puns.
We're two a mom and dad.
Yeah. The puns show up for a reason.
So Emporu, your character was the last one to join, and also the last one for us to sit down and figure out.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because I do remember too that you had started, even after you started, you got to a point you're like, oh, I completely, I don't think that the character that I started out with is actually the character that he is now, because I think like we misinterpreted a couple of things or something in the way that Portnay and Zaru worked.
Right.
And the way that would work. I feel like I'm also now just in space with the cat.
I also see all the kitty hairs just floating.
I'm in the cat globe. So tell me about Emporu and how he ended up getting fleshed out there, because you two probably had the most work done out of your journals. And it was interesting to see those kind of progress, and so tell me about that a little bit.
So for me, when I started, before I created the character, the only thing that I knew was that he was going to be magical of some kind, so he ended up being a wizard. And I remember you had when we were going through different subclasses, you had told me, you know, there's a subclass I wish someone could play. I've been waiting a year for someone to play it, and I'm like, whatever that is, I'm playing that one. Because you've been waiting a year to play that, and I'm just even thankful to even be on here, so I'm like, I'm gonna play that. The other thing that I remembered was that the rest of the group were explorers, and there was no one actually from Chult. And so I thought it was important to actually have a Chultan person in that group.
Besides the jungle dwellers.
Aside from jungle dwellers.
Yeah, that's sort of the...
I wanted to be the Chultan that was not a stereotype, because there's not a lot of portrayal of people in Chult, and I wanted to play that specifically because representation is important. And but as I was playing him, I just kind of got the idea that he wasn't. I was trying too hard to be Chultan, and it wasn't what I was, and it was almost too stereotypical. And it was great that you had us write the journals, because as I was writing the journals, and there was the moment where we all went and bought pirate coats, and it gave me an excuse to take out my LARP gear and get out my favorite pirate coat, which is what I wore. And then when I went home and wrote the journal, I realized when I put on the pirate coat, this is more me than all the Chultan wear that I have ever put on, because I went to school in Baldur's Gate. I met my husband at Baldur's Gate. I learned all of these things at Baldur's Gate, and then I had to come back home. And I didn't want to come back home. And when I wrote that down, I realized between you and I, we figured out this is where he actually is. And then everything began to lock into place. But I also took a very personal approach to it, because I thought about my dad, who came here to the US from the Philippines when he was about 14 or 15. It was about the 1950s, so before a lot of the civil rights stuff happened, and he was experiencing a lot of discrimination. And but he was very much an American, because when he went back to the Philippines to retire, because it was cheaper, he thought of the Philippines being, okay, that's going to be a place that's going to be all the familiar places of home. But when he returned, it wasn't anything like the childhood home he left. So I took that approach to Emporio, that this is Port Niazaro. I should know this place. This place is not what I remember, and I feel like a stranger in my own land. And the only people who I could really connect to were Zindar and these people. And so being with these people sort of reacclimated myself into the world, and knowing that it's okay to not be home in the place as long as you have a function and can do things.
It's a shame you won't be able to wear that pirate's coat again because you gave it away.
I
We could
know.
always have another one. We could always have another one made.
I could always, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we have some kudos of any type in chat for the amazing outfits that are together? Because there was a point where, for me, there was an obvious reason now why I stopped wearing my costume piece.
Right.
But Ryan committed the entire time, and I was like, dang,
Yeah.
putting all us to shame.
The rest of us just gave up. I'm
So sorry. That
I was
was
told-
not the
like,
intention.
okay.
So
I was just told to wear the jacket for the.
yeah. So starting with Kyle, we'll just do kind of real quick. What did you think about how your character progressed? Maybe something that you thought was a thing in the beginning, but then changed as by the end of the campaign. So something that you when you were fleshing him out, you thought about this, and then all of a sudden you were like, towards the end of the campaign, you realized that wasn't really your character at all.
I can't think of anything. There were things he didn't reach, like he was trying to find some sort of mentor advice kind of thing to help him make the decision changes that he wants. But he was also trying to find a way to bring Bartek back, which never got the opportunity. So, but as far as things that he expected or that I expected to be able to do with him, no, they all kind of were there. It was all just distracted by the adventure.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta put that on hold.
Let's also piggyback another question on this too. Is that what is a tip, one tip that you would give to a DM who wants their players to roleplay more, or for players that are in chat, one way that they can get into and roleplay a character a little bit more?
I would say if you make sure that they understand that there's rewards for role-playing, it'll get more people interested into actually role-playing as opposed to focusing on just what do I kill and what can I grab.
Okay, so for a DM, the rewarding role-playing.
Yeah.
And for a player?
Find the fun in it.
Okay.
It's not just tactical, because you could do that on a computer.
Yeah, and usually do.
Yeah.
Let's ping pong over to Kim. How did Eden change from the beginning to the end? What was something you thought was going to happen and you never, something else surprised you instead?
I think she opened up a little bit because I think she had this idea of what she was supposed to be and was supposed to have and didn't end up doing it. I didn't express it, but I felt like she liked Lapad more after he decided to help his people, because she had seen him as a very selfish character before, and she doesn't like selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
She likes people who are there for the greater good.
And then, since this was your first time really playing, what was something that helped you as a player get into the character in general?
Wow. I'm not sure that I was successful at being the character.
Well, let's assume that you were, because you fooled all of us
Yeah.
until you
Yeah.
told us otherwise.
Oh, maybe I should not have done that. Well, when we were creating her, you were trying to have me think of characters that she reminded me of that I could have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the first person we had was Arya Stark, but I
Right.
don't think she ended up being Arya Stark by the end.
No, I mean, I don't think she had that same. She definitely didn't have that same arc, and she didn't have the temper. But what you were pulling from Arya, if I recall, was mostly the feeling of being somebody who had a highborn. You weren't highborn, but you were peripheral.
Middle high.
Yeah,
Like
and
8
had
out of 10.
right, and had to kind of embody this other tougher physique, while the other girls around you would have been less warrior
Yeah.
kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So you were tougher. And,
But there's a revenge plot in there too.
there is
Yeah.
that maybe we'll get to in the summer.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to that in the
One
summer.
day.
Is that a Mean Girls reference?
No,
Oh, okay.
it's an actual revenge plot.
There was actually, so when I'll tell you this as a little behind the curtain kind of thing, behind the screen. We end up falling a couple of sessions behind because of the port and some things that happened in port. And near the Murkoff kind of thing, there was supposed to be an entire session that dropped more stuff for you as far as that revenge plot.
No, that's the question I was going to ask you. Is you famously have told us how slow we are at anything. And I was wondering where we could have gone if we had been as fast as you had hoped we would have been.
We will touch on that after we go through these questions here.
I am
That-
also
that would be
curious
one of
about
those-
where we were supposed to end this season.
That'll be one of those questions that you guys can ask me individually. Let's see. We'll save Dodger for after Sig. Lepad,
Yeah.
how did you change from the end of season 1 with Fury's Reach until the season 2? We had part of being in Port Nyanzaru for so long was because of Lepad. What do you feel like changed for Lepad over the course of the season?
Yeah, so in between season 1 and season 2, I was thinking about what would Lepad do after season 1, and he was kind of he wasn't sure. But then right off the bat in episode 1, like you set the tone, and it was a really dark tone, and so that set the tone for me. That was going to be season 2 was going to be Lepad's like dark character arc, and what I came to realize is like we don't really have the time to really give that the attention it needs. So I sort of didn't focus as much on taking him through these dark steps of, because, you know, at the beginning he didn't feel like he had anything to, you know, live for. He lost his whole village, Johan left, I don't know, he's in this weird spot, so he didn't really care. But, you know, so then I, you know, just started, I don't know, playing Lepad as Lepad. And he's a button pusher, you know? So,
Yeah.
He's a jerk.
that lovable jerk is what I strive for.
I feel like bits of that wound up coming into your character. Like with the whole scene with killing that dude.
Yeah, that was probably the pinnacle of it.
Yeah, I feel like it was a much more fast and loose Lepad. Much more of a, I don't care what the consequences are, Lepad. And it was interesting to have a moment where it was like, the consequences right now are really intense.
Yeah.
Like,
really high.
like
Yeah.
I need to, I'm still alive and I need to actually be thinking about this stuff. And I thought that was definitely a, I don't know, an homage to how you were feeling.
Yeah, that was, and then after that it was like, okay, sort of made a point with that, and like, I'll take a back seat, and that's a good tip for players. And it's like, if you realize your character is going in a direction that pulls it away from the group story, you got to be careful with that, because it's not the Lepad show, it's the story of the group. And if I would have pushed that even harder, we would have been even more behind, because like everybody would have to deal. Like if this was a home game we had all the time, like it'd be great to go through that. And
You guys have been in Port Nyanzaru for like an entire year. That would have been like Brooke's child would have been like walking around in the air,
It's like, all right.
Right next to
playing
the
with dinosaurs on the floor.
But you know, so yeah, you just got to look at the group aspect. And as far as like role playing goes, just look at it like envision it. How would this play out in a movie? And you know, what would your character say to make this moment awesome or funny or emotional? You know, think about it that way, and that's what helps me role play.
But for the group, not like you're not just playing that
Sure,
to play it.
right,
You're playing
yeah.
like for the group.
Because you always have to think, where's the story going next? Because it's not
Right.
ending right here.
And
So-
you have no idea
Yeah.
where the story's going. That's for somebody else working those things. But I would say that what we can distill that kind of down to is that like your tip for how to be a good role player or to get into role playing there is to think about your role in the group, not necessarily like just about, oh, well, I would do this. Like, well, my character would never do that. Enacting and Kyle can give a nod to this, and anybody else that's done a decent amount of acting, we can tell you that the characters, your character does whatever it is that actually benefits the story moving forward. If you get a script and it says your character does a thing and you go, well, my character would never do that, you need to find the motivation for your character to do that, because it's not up to you. There's no actor except for maybe Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks, but even they are seasoned enough to know that, oh, this isn't okay, I didn't think my character would do this. But now what is interesting about that? Where does that take me? What does that mean for that character? Wilson, as a little beach ball, like, oh, my character would never talk to a volleyball. Well, how interesting is it? It's Oscar winning kind of interesting when you do things that may not necessarily feel like something your character would do, but add to the overall story of the group.
But tabletop games are interesting because everybody's constructing it as you go.
Absolutely.
You don't have a script. But it's just, I feel like, I know that it's not my turn yet. But
we're going to transition into that because he just knocked out his tip.
Okay.
So.
Just since we're already talking about it, I feel like it's really important to take your moments, but also be willing to listen. You don't have to be on all the time. You don't have to be like in the spotlight all the time. It's important to let everybody develop their characters and their stories so that, as a group, you're all moving forward, I think.
And even if you want to play like a wild card, button pushing type character, you got to know when to push the buttons and when to back off a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
There's always balance. Like you can really annoy your teammates in a good way, but you got to know where that line is. And I definitely almost crossed it with the Cleaver business.
Dude,
so that's why I was like, let's take a step back.
Almost every time we left, like every time we had an episode, I would be walking out with Alex, and he would be like, I feel so bad. Like every time he did something with Yishnak where he knew, like, I'm derailing right now, but this is what Yishnak would do. Like he would have to make a choice in the moment, like, is this something we need to get through and I will not do this? Or would it benefit, like, character-wise for me to just have a second and just be weird, right? Just like be Yishnak. Like it was really hard for him. He was always like,
I feel like he is much more experienced and much smarter than Yishnak, and I feel like it comes through a lot.
He definitely took a lot of opportunities to check in with everybody else, and I think that Yishnak was probably the quietest character during the entire thing because he was so aware, to your point, of making sure everybody else had their moment, and knowing how alien Yishnak was to everything, making sure that when he took his moments, because I remember there was a couple of times when he was sitting there right next to me and I could see him be like, and I'd be like, no, go ahead. I got it. You haven't had a moment for a little while.
Right.
I'm gonna make time for your moment.
yeah.
And as a DM, I think for promoting role playing, that's super important to make sure that you're spreading the spotlight and making sure that the players are getting the ebb and flow of not only the game and where you can take it, but of each other. So you have to share in that way. What did you feel changed for Reef going through that? And we even lost you for a little brief stint there where you had to go out of town as well.
For Reef, like, she was kind of forced to be kind of working for the man in this season. And she did not like that. Like, doing this whole, like, structured thing for Zindar and also being told, like, you're in charge, so hope this works out. She was not into that. It was really fun, like, as it progressed, realizing, like, as Reef, I just really wish I was lost in the jungle right now. Like, that would be so much better suited to me. And kind of struggling with that, like, all right, this needs to get done. And I'm with, like, a capable group of people, but, like, I'm out of my element. I thought that was kind of fun to play. Whether it came through or not, that was sort of what I was thinking to myself while I was playing.
And that's actually what we did for your character when you had to go out of town for, like, those two episodes or something, is we just had, like, you wandered off because you needed alone time. You needed Reef time.
Yeah. Like,
and so you're like, I'm going to go check out this lead over here. I know we're headed here, but I'll catch
fine.
up.
I definitely
Didn't
won't run
even
into
leave a
kobolds.
note.
Yeah.
Which he had a nice
all worked out.
that back and forth that your characters had about, and this is why we're not. He got a nice little stinger on you that you weren't even here for. But so you're to your point again, like you were definitely between you and Alex, definitely like trying to figure out where the characters had to find their moments, and for Reef, her character is very much that. I'm along for the fun of this, and like I am literally a thrill-seeking treasure hunter.
Totally.
And having to be in charge kind of put the damper on your surfing.
People are like relying on me. This isn't fun.
Now, how did you feel like that actually affected your relationship with the group? Because your role obviously became to be the leader that everybody was supposed to look to for advice. He was too busy sulking about killing people. She was sulking about not killing people. Lapad was sulking about all the dead people that he left behind. And in Poru, we still don't know.
I think Ryan put it well at the beginning of the Q&A when he said, "You became the mom." Because I did. I was just like, I don't know what to do, and everybody's just like doing their own thing or not caring, and I don't. Like, I kept trying to offload responsibilities onto people. Like I did that to Eden all the time. I did that to him all the time. Anytime it was, we really need to talk to that person, I'd be like, sick, you go do that.
You were a good delegator. an optimal leader there.
Right.
And then the only time you left to go talk to Zendar and took all the glory for that part, you're like, all right, you guys clean this up. I'll go tell Zendar what's up.
That is true. Look, I'm not, you know what, you're sneakier. You should have gone. That should have been all you. But I got to go. Sorry, I keep poking you.
No, it's okay.
Ryan.
Undercover like 3 times.
How do you feel like, and if this is too close to the last question that you answered, then we'll scrap it, but how do you feel like your, like Emporu changed, let's say in the middle of season, so let's say like somewhere around like episode 6 or 7 on, what was something that you really felt like, when did you feel like you were actually contributing and like a part of the group? Because I know you felt like an outsider for a little while.
Yeah, for a little bit, I think during episode 3 when I was introduced, the premise of being introduced at that point was we were all supposed to have a way in or a way we were supposed to be introduced. But because we were, I think everyone was still at that restaurant, like I was.
Oh yeah, I thought you worked at the restaurant for like 3 solid episodes. I know that you and I had known that since I am a LARPer, you could just throw me in and I'll be fine. So I was thrown in and I was trying to figure out at that point, okay, what do I do at this point? So a lot of the first few episodes was just kind of observing and then figuring out how to role play my character. And it wasn't until we got into the ziggurat where we just kind of like we went on #PretzelQuest,
right?
And all of the camping things where I got out of my producer head because I kind of want to try to solve the problem. Like the original quest that I had was to solve the death curse. So I came in trying to think of how do I go into the solving of the death curse and just hash on that plot, but we weren't getting anywhere close. So I wasn't very, very like roleplay active until I got to just be silly because I got more and more frustrated. The moment I got frustrated and stopped trying to be stoic is when I figured out, okay, this is the character. He can get mad and he doesn't have to be like super proper doctor. The other thing that I didn't expect was he's supposed to be a healer, but he did so much damage. So much
That's
hurting.
Wizards. Yeah, that's Wizards for you. You guys had a lot of single target damage in the group. So when you somewhere around episode 10 figured out that your biggest benefit besides the healing from your reconstruction spells, your biggest benefit was being able to wipe out large groups. Which I had been throwing at you guys and waiting and waiting and Ed didn't even get to use her charge feature until the last
There was
episode.
a straight line.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
I remember when you killed that guy outside of that bar?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I thought Emporu kind of joined the
Remember when
group.
we had a really hard lesson about how crit damage works?
I was going to say, I thought Emporu joined the group when we covered up his murder.
And then passed out on the dead guy.
Walking right into the port cliffs and pop.
Yeah, because at that moment, my brain just did not register what a portcullis was. I have never heard it referred to as a portcullis. I just thought it was a castle gate. When I thought portcullis, I thought, okay, it's Latin, it's port, so it's like a door. So it should be like a saloon door. He's standing in front of a saloon door. Then why can't I just walk into it? And then I walk into a gate. So I accidentally just try to shock him to get away, rolled a crit, kill him, then walk straight into the portcullis, rolled a 1, get electrocuted by the portcullis. And at first I thought, the chat must think I'm a freaking idiot. And then I went and looked at the chat, and some people said that was the best 6 seconds of D&D I've ever watched. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So it's okay to fail sometimes.
Totally.
I think failure's the best.
I think that's another thing. Like, people sometimes don't commit to role playing because they're so worried they're going to do something dumb.
Yeah.
Right? But like, failure is part of a story.
Yes.
Like, failure can be incredible in D&D.
Yeah, and it's for a movie. It's the first 100 minutes of the story is fail, 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 fail. Look at The Revenant. That dude rolled so many 1s in the snow that there was no way he should have even made it back to the camp. He
Right.
just had incredibly high constitution and was stubborn beyond all belief. So then your opportunity there for role playing, what would be your is be afraid to fail your sorry, not be afraid, but be open to failing
Oh, absolutely.
as your
Yeah,
Okay.
like even when I did, I come from a lot of LARPing background, and the most interesting plots are those where you have your flaws.
right.
Like, flaws always make the most interesting characters. So failures,
I preach that.
yes, you do, and failures always make interesting plot.
Yep. So I'm going to take a real quick second to remind everybody that this is my awesome cast from Fury's Fate. Sig, Kim, Dodger, Ryan, and Kyle, and we are missing Alex Gross, the Octopimp, otherwise known as Yishnok. Yishnok.
Yishnok.
Lizard man.
Yes.
Yes. Egg. Where's Egg?
Egg, jug.
Jug. Egg. Good. And that if you guys like the content that D&D is letting us make for you, go ahead and drop them a subscribe. They've got all these cool emotes as well that you can play along with. And then, if you like my people and the fun we have and people walking into portcullises after killing people in the streets and in fighter pits, go ahead and subscribe to Maze Arcana, because now you can get our new emotes, which you can see PG, who was crawling around on me earlier, our fabled Satchel, and Kyle going, oh hi, and a Satine Chibi.
Oh my god, this is
It's the cutest thing ever.
With elf ears and all.
Yeah.
And you can even get me wearing the Uber Eldridge knot and my vest and all that stuff, looking dapper, I suppose. And if you really felt so inclined, you can use it for some side-eye. But we were really impressed when the artist came back and made us basically into anime characters. We were like, oh wow, oh my god. Like, Satine actually, like...
They're really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump back onto one of the other... Oh, look at that. We had some people that were in the chat that, like, just launched all of the emotes.
Nice.
Oh.
Those are great. And, yeah, with the Satchel, if you have dice, if you are a sub for both here and for D&D, so Maze Arcana and Dungeons & Dragons, you can use the Satchel to roll a die out, right? Any number of things. Like, you could even use the Satchel for some of Dodger's cats.
Hey.
That's where she keeps them.
Yeah. So let's go on to, I think the next question that we had was... go ahead and get your questions, and if you have anything that you want to ask people.
Yeah.
So real fast, and just somebody can take this. We don't need to go through everybody on this one, but what did you think about Port Nyanzaru?
Still have no idea where anything is.
I don't get the geography either,
Oh my God.
honestly.
I had a map.
Yeah, we had to look at your map so much because I was just like, I don't know.
That's part of what drove me crazy, was the minutia of it. We should go through the alley and then past the meat stand and away from the hooks, but then down the alley, and it's just like, oh, can
I
we
want to
go
say
there?
I've spent at least 3 months in Port Nyanzaru.
Yeah.
So for me, it's old home.
Yeah, it's home. So then what do you think about Chult? And I know, Kim, you didn't really get a whole lot of time in Chult. And neither did Ryan to this point, even though your character's been from there for a while. What did you guys think of Chult specifically, like being in the jungle? And maybe we'll leave you two out of this one because you didn't experience like the rainfall and the zombie stuff. Anyone?
I think it's. I mean, I got to play through more parts of it on One Grung Above, and also, season 1. And I think it's cool. There's so many cool areas, and the whole zombie aspect is really cool. And like the environment. Yeah, it's like that can kill you just as quick as any creatures. So it's an exciting place to adventure.
Yeah, as a player, I really wish that up until this point, I haven't had much of a chance to interact with anything having to do with the death curse. Like aside from Reef as a character, right? But like me personally, I haven't played in a way where I've interacted with that enough to feel the dread of it that everybody in Chult feels, So yeah, that's the only thing that I feel like I'm still really missing out on in terms of exploring Chult.
Yeah, I kind of had to think about Chult and the role-playing of it, like kind of in a backstory. With the death curse, I kind of think about the fact that people can't get brought back and how many families that affects. So because of that, that is Emporu's like motivation into trying to solve the death curse. A lot of people will be sad and broken if those people can't come back, which is weird because that happens in real life. Like people don't come back,
right? But
we play in a world where
people could,
and it's a given.
Your goal is to prevent us from the horrors of reality.
Yes.
What about, let's see, what was your favorite episode? And if you pick an episode, if you did have an episode in season 1 in Fury's Reach that was your favorite, then you get to do a twofer. So you'll get to do both that. So we'll go with the season 2 people first, and then we'll go back to our other ones. So Kim, what was your favorite episode?
I liked the one where there was this you created a valley almost of kobolds and grungs.
Yeah.
Grung, I'm sorry, that's not the right plural.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
And we all ran in and blew it up and fell into a mystery dimension. I didn't know what that was, so I didn't know what to tell people to think next week because I didn't know either.
Yeah, so your favorite episode was the episode where
the
Lapad,
most confusing one.
The most confusing one.
Yes.
Where Lapad actually faced off against his arch nemesis and found out that there was a larger arch nemesis at play. And then you guys basically ran melee through the middle of this ravine inside the smuggler tunnels, and that's when you missed.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
And that was also the one that I had specifically placed things for you there for your spotlight. And Kim, what happened to you?
Oh, the episode, was that same episode or the one before?
That was the same episode.
Oh wow, that was a big one. I didn't know how to find traps, so I fell into a trap. And
I should have been there.
You found a secret door.
It was more
a
an
dart
ambush.
hit me, and I went nuts and ran inside of a dark cave and revealed everybody.
We had to wrestle.
Yeah.
Kyle had to stop me.
It was great.
It was fun. I
You
mean,
got hit
failure
with-
can be fun.
Yeah.
We talked
Yeah.
about this.
That was the only time. Like, so you had a couple of stints where you had terrible rolls for your saving throws for the Constitution, because that was grung poison that you got hit with in the darts, and then
Oh, which kind?
Yeah, so that was the blue and the orange poison stacked together, where she was afraid of her allies, so ran from them, and
Oh,
then
but was also screaming.
She had the one where at the beginning and the end of her turn, she had to make really loud noises. So she basically just goes wailing into, she hits the little door, looks in, sees a bunch of little frogs go,
Yeah.
and then she gets hit with all these things, fails her rolls, and then she makes all the rest of her saves for like the entire rest of the game until we get to the bad guy at the end, or actually the Morkoth, and she fails all these wisdom saves and did nothing the entire fight.
Morkoth, I didn't like that one because I couldn't do a damn thing. I
That
know
is-
it was
see
part
the-
of the game, but it was frustrating.
I could see the frustration on your face.
Yeah.
I was only there for half of that
Yeah.
fight.
I was hoping that there was something that happened, like to where you got the final blow just so you could have the thing. But I think Reef ended up getting that
She
final
did.
I
blow.
think I did.
Yeah. What about you? What was your favorite?
Well, I originally was going to say the mall because that was
The
just so
ziggurat?
much fun. But I would say the finale. Like, that was as perfect as one could make that finale. Just everyone's interaction, but also how it was all summed up at the end. Like, that was, like, very perfect.
Yeah, you guys really did a great job of bringing that home, figuring out that. Did you guys like that I made that a raid fight?
Oh yeah.
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 Was it a nice sketch? Because I felt like so much of the campaign was social interactions and didn't have a whole lot of mechanics behind it. It was mostly just you guys role playing and role playing with me. And then the Morkoth fight was a pretty good mechanic thing, and you guys thought that was the last one. Kyle didn't. And then I had you guys come into that little part there, and you guys figured it out with just enough time to. You were sweating bullets that whole
Oh my
time.
god, I was panicking so hard because I knew, like, I have an ability that will tell me exactly what I need to do. And I kept not getting 15. All I had to do was roll above a 15. I was just like, come on!
Didn't you try that,
It was like
6
2,
times or
7,
Too many.
5,
Oh.
2. It was really ridiculous.
And I had rolled that ability earlier on in the fight, but I hadn't hit very high.
Right.
And so I got information about the dudes that came from the ceiling, that there were going to be things coming from the ceiling. And so I was like, well, maybe I just can't find anything else out about that. And you kept being like, I bet you have an ability that would really help with this fight.
There's subtle hints that I like to drop for you guys. Sig, what was your favorite episode?
Oh, there was many. But you know what? Actually, I'm gonna save the aftermath of the Cleaver episode.
Okay.
Because that was actually like everybody had their moment in cleaning up the mess, and everybody worked together really good. And actually, like, we came to that like pretty okay.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the episode prior, everybody's like, "Oh my God, what are we doing now?"
Right.
And then everybody did such a great job, and I feel like it made the group stronger because like early on we had to like solve that like a serious problem altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that was, I think that was the galvanizing episode for you guys to kind of like when everybody jumped in and took care of some of the issues that you guys had created for yourselves. That one was the one that surprised me the most because I thought, at that point I was like, I started rewriting the campaign, the back end of the campaign, because I was like, all right, so this is going to end up being a court system thing, and I've got to like go through all these things, which we've done on Maze Arcana. We did the Eberron, we had a whole thing where Thrain was trying to extricate 2 of the characters because they got in trouble for these other things with the Silver Flame. And I had to call Keith and be like, hey, so I see how all of the stuff works in Sharn, but how would Thrain courts go? And he's like, probably a tribunal. And I'm like, oh, great. So I've got to like mismatch those together. So Kyle, what was your favorite?
For this season, I would say it's the split party episode where we went off and played in the alleys, and then these guys went and got into the fight. Because it definitely let all the characters show off a little bit so you could see who they were and what they did. But at the same time, it also brought a lot of information and conflict at the same time to motivate everything together.
Right. I feel like that one was episode 4. Like that was the Cleaver and Brudder episode. And then episode 5 is the one that you're talking about where we cleaned up the mess. Dodger, what was your favorite episode?
God, everybody's listed like really good ones.
You could always just talk about something you liked in one of those.
I know that by far my favorite episode of season 1 was the episode where the Red Grung blew up.
Yeah.
That was definitely. I remember Sig and I later being like, that was really messed up. But like we were excited.
The other half of that episode was my favorite on our first season, was when we were trying to save the Red Grung and it blew up.
Dude, that's honestly, it's so cool finding out in game what happened in your guys' game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, finding out, oh my God, they tried to save her. Like, they tried to do something to save her.
We had her
and
heart-
knowing
we
that
were gonna,
you
like,
were
stick the
there
heart
when
back
she
in and
blew up.
everything.
Oh my God, it's really fascinating. Yeah, just finding out, not sitting down and being like, all right, so tell me everything that happened in season 1.
Right.
Like
you
just
can watch it
finding
on
out.
the back episodes, you know.
Well, I intentionally didn't watch them because I liked the little like Easter eggs that we were
Same.
finding.
Didn't you have
Yeah.
a rule?
Yeah,
Oh,
you guys
during the
weren't
first
supposed
season.
to during the first season to watch.
While we were
those.
playing the first season, we weren't allowed. We weren't allowed to watch
Like, we could
the
have stopped
episodes
it.
of the counterpart game. Yeah, which
Right.
made a lot of sense.
Right, because and one of the questions that somebody put in here was what are the unique challenges to running a dual campaign? So I'll talk about that in a minute, but like that right there was one of the rewards of running that kind of a game, was that you guys had a very specific, like you guys had a very specific energy that happened when you started figuring out that there were little like, oh, I bet that was the other group.
Right.
Oh, like you guys would start guessing in game, like.
Half the stuff they did, I thought with the pirates who we were trying to beat to the stuff too. So we had
Because there was a third
pirates who were
faction.
doing things.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was a
really?
third faction,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did not know.
And
Yeah.
we would like see like corpses or like body parts of people and be like, huh, I wonder who that was. And later on in the game be like, I bet that's something from I bet that's actually because Rudy would always take the time to be like, and just as a side note, this thing has just a decapitated arm in its mouth. No reason. Like,
What happened there?
There's a random arm.
that happened
Why
in
is
the
there-
last game. That happened in the other
wink,
game.
wink.
Yeah.
Why is there an Eric Conquer arm just hanging out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you're doing dual games that have like an audience watching, that it's rewarding to like do little like, if you know,
yeah.
for people who are watching both, is be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
here's this thing. You
Oh,
know?
well, we loved the moments when because Satine and I, part of what we have to do for those dual games is we watch each other's things. Like we're both here during the stream taking notes, making sure like we're either hitting a beat or if a beat gets dropped or something like that. Like, okay, so is this an important one that we really need to get to, or was this just fun? And we would go back. So we would go back and watch every night. Like you guys go home and go to bed. We're up until about 2 a.m. watching the stream again,
Right.
making notes, like writing down things. And some of the most rewarding stuff that we got was from the chat realizing things happened simultaneously. I know that in one of the first episodes where, I think it was maybe your first episode, was the one where you guys rescued whom you later called JJ, the little rung.
Yeah, it was either the first. No, because
was your second
Oh, yeah, that's right,
'Cause
the
the
snake.
first
Second
episode, we spent forever trying to get a door open.
That's right.
The door
I heard
puzzle.
about that one.
Yeah.
The door puzzle, which was painfully obvious, but
It killed us because I think all of us were going, it's not that easy.
Yeah, I was
So
sitting-
none of us
yep.
ever vocalized like the really
Like-
easy, obvious way to
Right off the bat, I was like, oh, it's that. And then I just never said anything because I was like, it
Yeah.
can't be that simple.
can't be that.
And then, oh, crap, it was that simple. We're all like, what if we have to do this and that?
Oh my
Gosh.
So in that next episode then, because then after that you guys got actually stuck in the middle fighting that snake.
Yes.
But the next episode you guys did that, you went up and you took care of you like rescued JJ. And in the process of that, the next episode, you guys actually beat them there because of going up through the bottom of that thing after the plateau episode with Grant. And Holly getting kicked off the side of the. So Kyle's group actually watched your entire. So one of the things Satine did was go back and write down all of the incredible things that you guys did, like when you ran out and jump kicked that guy into the lava and almost fell in yourself.
Yeah.
Like she wrote all that down, and so she narrated it back to them as something they were watching up above, and it was really awesome to see the chat go, wait, what is all this happening with? And some other people in the chat going, well, if you had watched last week.
And us being confused as hell because like, aren't we supposed to be sneaking in here? And they just pummel their way through.
Yeah.
So show of hands, as a character, Raise your hand if you liked the Ziggurat as a character. All right. Raise your hand if you like the Ziggurat as a player.
That's a shopping mall.
Remember we were
The
on
shopping
Shopping
mall.
I'm trying to remember. That's when we had the. That's not the Morgoth.
No, the shopping mall, the Ziggurat.
The
Get
pretzel
pretzels.
quest.
The
Pretzels and the
Oh,
camping
God.
equipment.
I think
Neither.
I shouted like.
You didn't like it.
Me and Reef did not like that.
What's funny about that was like I was trying to, because that whole cleaver thing happened. I was like, I'm gonna take it back a little bit. I'm gonna be like, but I kept failing the charisma save, so then I had to be like dragging
pretzels.
this in the
Yeah.
wrong direction. I'm like, but I'm just trying to go with the
Oh
flow.
my god!
but
And
I
then
can't.
and then having Yishnak, you like obviously Yishnak isn't going to be like we shouldn't get this pretzel.
yeah, right.
Right.
And he wasn't even failing anything. He's just like,
He was
food
just like,
sounds good.
Yes.
And I'm
let
like, give
us-
me some food.
Let us get a pretzel.
Yeah,
That's
that was a
right.
situation where his roleplay worked with your roles. Like you were rolling almost for the two of you for a lot of those, and he was just like, yeah, pretzel, yes. So then Dodger didn't like it on either
No,
side.
that was like the ultimate. Remember when I was saying that Reef really hates having to feel like a mom? That was the ultimate
That was all moms.
Reef mom.
Yeah.
Just being like, can we just get over there and then leave?
so
Well, I was sticking it to you a little bit by going, so where are we going? What are we going to do?
I had never even been there. You had. So angry.
so the two of them on the back there have actually been to the Ziggurat in season 1,
Right.
which
With separate groups.
Right, which was probably I would say that the two Ziggurat episodes for both seasons were probably some of my favorite because it just creates.
3 episodes.
You had 3 episodes. Oh, I guess you could
Yeah.
technically say that. Yeah, 2 weeks worth of
Yes.
That one was probably my favorite span of episodes because it just created so many opportunities for good role playing with giving people a mechanic where they were allowed to be frustrated. As opposed to Eden, who just got frustrated at other people's mechanics.
I got frustrated in the Ziggurat.
Yeah, you did.
I think I said something and you started laughing, and then I was like, yeah, and then
You're like, yeah, mission
I'm gonna do
accomplished.
this more. Just loud complaining.
Yeah, because I remember in the first season when we went through it, I failed some saves and was literally getting the headache that you guys were, and I was playing and pissed, and people were asking in the chat, "Oh my God, is Kyle pissed at Satine?"
Oh yeah.
Because I was literally just going, "Can we just get this over?"
And that's an interesting thing too, is that if you're doing it right, like you could tell that Satine and I never really there was very few points where we were frustrated really.
Yeah.
In any story character development stuff. There was also Ash, be a good boy. Just lay down. Lay down, buddy.
Ash, lay down.
That's not laying down. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna go hang out with Sid. He
Yeah.
likes me.
Yeah.
I'm-
Oh,
Don't
there
make
he
me.
is. Now he's
don't
like-
make
now he's
me
like
raise
that.
my voice. So as far as the Ziggurat episode went, like those were some of my favorite because they gave you guys opportunities. I hope that you find time to go back and watch that episode and see how Ivan handled it.
Oh yeah,
Because
Ivan
he
is
failed
amazing.
so many saves in there and got
Amazing.
so frustrated.
Yes.
And it really highlights the up and down nature. Like you guys had a hard time locating the escalator type things, the staircases in general.
Right.
He just located all of them, but in the wrong order. So he's doing this and dragging Lapad, like, and he like at one point like. It was like Ivan completely forgot about the poison aspect at one point, so he just jams Lapad into his jacket at one point because he's like dragging Lapad around like a child.
Please tell me he failed the roll.
He failed so many
Great.
rolls,
Great.
and he's sweating, right? And Lapad is sweating, so they're just like. There's like this secretion of frog down the side, and he's just like gets mad then because he's hopping in,
Right.
and then he finds out that Volo is like taking his book signing and all this other. He gets so mad at Volo, and they get in there, and the two of them try and like cause all of this ruckus.
I think what almost makes it better is that all of the player characters have to like roll and potentially get at least a little frustrated, but then basically everybody that we interact with that's an NPC in the Ziggurat is just having a great day.
Yeah.
Like that almost makes it worse. You're just like, how are you happy?
Well, if you want to, you can get a job in there like that.
Right.
Yeah. We'll do a quick hi. How are you doing to Lauren, Oboe Crazy, who is one of the awesome mods and has her own show that she's on here on the channel. And also to Mark Holmes, who is a good friend of ours over there across the pond, somebody I love role-playing with. And he, with Tabletop Weekly, just popped in. So another stream for you guys to follow and come hang out with, besides D&D and Maze Arcana, where you get these awesome emotes that Andre's gonna put up again. The awesome people here, like Sig's got a channel where he's doing a lot of sculpting. He's even sculpting Lepad. And Dodger, I mean, geez.
I hear she's got something.
Dodger's channel is just like
stream
a
a lot.
Goliath. Yeah. But Tabletop Weekly is a great one for you to hop over and see. Mark does painting. He does a lot of Warhammer 40K. He even does a DM 101 thing, and we're going to try and get over there and hang out with him when we're going to do D&D in a castle in July. We're trying really hard to find a little block of time where we're going to be over there in England where we can come and hang out with you. So, hey, buddy. Outside of that, if there was a character... Oh, actually, I just saw this one pop up, so I'm going to do this one and then move to the other one. Somebody wanted to know, Dodger...
Yeah.
Was there a moment where in your head you did something awesome and then in your head started whistling or humming the Indiana Jones theme?
No, I'm so sorry.
That's the truth. Just point blank.
Your whip to save us.
That
No?
was, look,
You did save...
the whip came in.
You saved
a
me.
lot of candy.
She saved a lot of people with the whip. Like, Ivan almost died in
Season one.
in season 1. I think it was like episode 6. No, it was probably, let's see, episode 7, I think, right before you guys, like right when you lost the baby Grung. That one was
9.
Was it 9?
It was pretty far in.
It was like the one right before the end, I think.
Might have
Was it
been.
11?
Yeah. I think
Maybe.
so.
No,
I feel like the
it
whip
was
really got
like
to
9 or
shine
10,
this season.
But still.
The whip was,
absolutely.
yeah. Your bull whip was fantastic. So if there was one, I'm sure it would have been one of the moments you saved
Yeah,
people.
the Indiana Jones theme never played in my head, but there were times where I rolled really well to like help somebody or save somebody, and I was internally going,
God, you definitely got in a couple of daps too. Like,
Yeah.
You didn't drop out of those. Okay, so one of the other things that was great, a good question in here was, what was the if you could swap with any character, what character would you swap with? And this can be from either season.
Yishnok.
You would swap with the
I would
Yishnok.
swap with Yishnok.
yeah, I was gonna say I would love to play a character like Lepad.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
Lepad has convinced me that playing a grung is the way to go.
Have you watched any of the One Grung Above?
I watched a little bit, yeah.
The Grung, especially you get the ecosystem of the Grung together.
They're
it's
so
much
aggro with
fun.
each other.
They are. It's all passive aggressive.
Yeah.
It is so passive aggressive. You have one that's just like bossing everybody around, and they're just like, okay, like through grit teeth the whole
Yeah.
time. Kim, who would you switch with?
I don't like grung culture, so I can't pick it.
Fair
I think
enough.
it's really rude and classist. and
And that's just an affront for all that Kim
I
stands.
don't like it. I like justice. You know, I probably would like to be Yishnok because his ignorance is welcome, and we could also use Alex more productively.
Yeah, that you guys could have. He was really built for carrying you guys in combat.
He never really got to use any of his like grave cleric stuff.
Well, he did cancel quite a few crits on you
Yeah, he
guys.
did.
Maybe
true.
some of the episodes when you were gone. I know that he canceled a couple in the Cavern episode and also in the Markath one. And I think he canceled a crucial one in the final fight. Yeah, that kept people kept somebody from dying. Ed. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Because she was
Oh,
running
yeah.
low on hit points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't go down that much, so yeah, grave clerics are really good at oh, you're down? Not anymore. You're good. And so he didn't get to do that a lot, but he did cancel some great crits. And I will say that he originally his spell selection was very combat oriented. And then after he found out that the campaign, you guys were going to be in Nine Zaru for a while, he swapped up some of those, but he kept that Earth Wall or the Shape Earth.
Oh,
Oh my
was-
gosh, yeah.
Stone Shape.
Yeah, Stone Shape. Stone Shape ended up
glad you
being
had that.
so clutch for you guys in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
What was who? You got yours. Who would you switch with, Lapad?
That's a tough one. Maybe Reef, you know, but it's tough to say. Well, because yeah, I just like the sisterly vibe and like just the excitement that he brought into season 1 was like
Yeah.
right off the bat like amazing. And I just like the excitement for adventure. You know, it's like the true kid in all of us.
Yeah.
But see, I couldn't switch because that's what you bring to the character. So you know, like I don't know. It's a tough one. I think everybody did such a great job of bringing something to each character that you know,
I agree.
that's why it makes it tough to say I'd switch this that.
I'd swap with this person because you're right. Then the character would be different.
Nobody was going to swap with Grant's character?
I was thinking about it for a
Super
second.
duper
Well,
dead,
yeah,
yeah.
I kind of. Well, Lapad ran him over with Dinosaur.
Twice.
Him
Lapad-
and probably a couple.
Yeah,
of people.
Lapad smashed his skull with a dinosaur, and then you guys, and then Ivan burned his body.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
remember that
Grant and
conversation.
I went on a road trip recently, and he was telling me all the terrible things that happened in season 1. And I went, what? And he's like, I don't think I could come back ever.
Well, if like when we give him a little bit of time, you know, we put a little bit of air between him and his character,
Okay.
then we can probably come back. But we created, like, I mean, like there's a character in Tomb of Annihilation that will resurrect a character into a different state. And if you actually followed through season 1, you'll see that he actually had a deal with Markul, who gave him basically an out for death that nobody else had. But somebody did acquire before traipsing into the woods. Who would you switch with if you had the opportunity to play somebody else's character?
Oh, maybe Vartak.
Oh yeah, it would be because you had some definite thoughts on how he could play those other moments a little differently. So I've got a couple of questions that are here that somebody put up for me, and I think you guys touched on like maybe something that was like what derailed me or what derailed the campaign, where you guys could have been. So why don't we just ask you guys? Do you have a question for me? And we'll just kind of pop down the line and see if they hit them.
Well, I asked my question.
Okay, so you want to know what kind of things?
Yeah, what did we miss by being so slow?
Well, so there was supposed to be more development for your backstory, where we did have a dip into the. I'm trying to decide how much I would want to reveal in order that
In case you use it.
Yes, because it's still ripe for using.
If you say the right word, I'll get it, but no one else will.
Okay, so the barony, I would say, we wanted to dive a little bit into that to give you an idea of what's happened since you left home. That would have been part of one of the episodes. Another one, we didn't get enough time to explore. There was stuff that you guys would have found that had to do with the Death Curse, and that was because it was part of Yishnok's backstory and part of Emporu's to get some more information on this. And actually, if you read some of Yishnok's journal stuff, which is on our Patreon and also on the Reddit, you'll see that Yishnok is like basically almost calls Zindar a liar because when you went back and got information, he's like, Dragonbone didn't give us stuff, didn't tell me nothing, so I guess we just keep going, kind of thing. Like it was like one of those things, and that was actually because we got waylaid a little bit.
Right.
And Kyle's backstory was supposed to get a little bit of, or I guess Kyle's current story was supposed to get a little bit more attention in the back part there as well with the Death Curse, because part of his ambition was to try and find out why Vartak couldn't be raised or what he could do to circumvent that. So those were things that you guys would have had a little bit more experience with if we got out of Portney and Zaru before episode 6 or something. Dodger, do you have any questions?
I accidentally asked mine earlier during a conversation.
Did I answer it?
Yeah, pass me.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I'll think of another one.
I was curious how the cast was selected and determined.
I hate that question.
I'm sorry.
I told you it's who was available.
Yes.
Well,
Because he likes us best, better than anybody else in the whole
Yeah.
world who could possibly be on this show.
I mean, that's it partially, yeah. Like, so we had like some of you I knew from before. Some of you I had meager run-ins, like at a party or something like that, and we had conversations. But the one thing that stood out to me about each of you was that when talking about the game, one of the things that you hated the most was the idea that you could get involved in a campaign and get super stoked for it and get 2 sessions out of it before it fell apart. And I'm like, well, I'm guaranteeing you this number of episodes. And I think like after I said that, pretty much all of you were like, okay, I'm in. Like there wasn't an out of that. And the other thing too is that it was like, role play is going to be super important, and that's another thing that as D&D players sometimes we don't get, especially if we're used to a lot of organized play where people are min-maxing a lot and not focusing necessarily on role play. Home games typically have a little better, can have a little bit looser way to do that because you don't have to cram everything into convention schedules. But I think that tide is actually changing quite a bit now. But you have more freedom to let things air out and to see how that's going to play. So one thing that I made sure of when we were talking to you guys was, this is going to be a thing. We need to make sure that you're going to be around for these things. A couple of absences are going to be fine. We can work around that like any D&D campaign. But we really want to promote, or we really want to provide a visual context for what D&D, like a good way that we make D&D look like something that is actually an enjoyable process and not something where somebody goes to a table, has all of these strangers that are just like making them want to bash their head into a wall. Because sometimes that's the experience you get, and that can turn people off like immediately. So for me, it was about making sure that the people that we corralled were into making it a good game for each other and about the community of it. And then also that you guys were about community in general, because that really sinks into what Satine and I have worked really hard for over the last 2 years to build the community. And that goes all the way back to our meetup groups that we have for LA and North, I guess the San Fernando Valley, for the Valley and for LA, where we have like 2,000 people in each of those groups, and that's specifically just us like helping people find games, whether they're home games or not. And we just wanted to present something where people could see that and be like, okay, so the experience I had over here at this game store isn't always D&D. It can be like this. So that's kind of what my thing was for selecting that. And then obviously I have a very specific DM style, so being able to handle me as a DM is just the same as me being able to handle you as players, right? And so that session 0 is important in any game, whether it's going to be televised or not. You really need to make sure that you're upfront with your players about what kind of campaign it's going to be. Otherwise, you find yourself 6 episodes in or 6 sessions in, going, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. Like, I don't feel like planning this. Like that's terrible. Like it just increases your burnout by like 1,000-fold. Kyle, do you have a question?
I had more of a question for these guys.
Okay. Sig, you got a question?
Yeah, I don't know how much you can say too, because you might have to. But
I can always plead the fifth.
Yeah. So Crone Hex and that snake. What was the deal with that?
The snake was just familiar.
Okay. Was he evil?
Cronehex?
Yeah.
It's Grung.
It's a grung.
Well,
Are you evil?
Kind of evil.
well, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of ripped the
I
heart
guess.
out of somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I still have my suspicions about him.
How'd you feel about Beatrix?
Where did Beatrix come from?
She was a bird.
I was
yeah,
gone.
so-
You were
Beatrix was just suddenly a backpack. And then
She was at his boss fight, and
Yeah.
he just picked her up.
Do you remember when we were fighting the little
We saved-
dinosaurs that spit the poison?
kobolds?
No.
No.
the Dilapa rat.
It's the episode before you
Dilapa,
left.
Dilophosaurus.
The
Yeah,
last
right,
episode
the last
you were
episode when you left, when we ran out to the woods, and there was the red grung that we saved from the dinosaurs,
He like froze me and I fell on my face, and now we were having this
and
conversation.
you were hiding
guys-
next to me in the bush. Anyway, you were there.
I
That
don't
was his
remember
sister.
this,
That
I'm
red
sorry.
grung said, "Save my sister."
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I remember that guy.
That was his sister that we saved when he went in and killed the big
Grung.
red
Yeah.
grung.
Okay,
Red
good
grung.
job.
She helped him a little.
Got it.
Yeah, Dodger, do you think of a different question?
I was gonna ask, now that you've been DMing on Twitch like a decent amount, what has been most challenging for you DMing like on a live stream to an audience versus like DMing before that?
I think that anybody that's played with me in a convention setting or in home game stuff wouldn't have seen me like trying to hustle them through something as much.
Yeah.
So knowing how tight to hold the rope there, and like when I had to start like crossing things off a list that I had set up for an episode, or like little clues, because in a home game you don't have to do that stuff, right? You have forever to explore something as long as you guys are having fun. So balancing having fun but also pushing the narrative so that it's still entertaining to watch and people aren't like, what's happening? Where are they going? Why is nothing moving? Like that, trying to get you guys to continue moving, but also trying to help you as best I could to learn your class stuff when it was something that you either just got and didn't remember, or something that you hadn't had to use in a while because there was no combat forever. Those kind of things can derail a campaign. So one of the things that DMing for an audience or something is you have to be mindful of not only making sure you guys are having fun, but that the story is moving so that other people are having fun. And Satine and I are very big about not catering to an audience per se. Like, we want this to be our home game, right? And for people to be able to kind of poke in and watch it, but that still means that we have to make it move.
You have a finite number of episodes.
Right. And we don't want to just drop it off.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, thanks for tuning in. We got to the Zuggurat, and they're halfway through a mall, and you don't get to see how that ends. You know, like that would be sort of frustrating if you were watching it. It might be fun along the way, but that would be a bummer of a finale. Is like, oh, the thing you guys accomplished this season was you bought tents. Good job.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want that to be the thing. So knowing that, like, I come from a film and television background as a writer, and going from that where you have to keep pace very specifically, keeping pace for a game that's like this is also in that same vein, but also trying to make sure that you guys had fun. And remembering that when I'm describing things for you guys, it is for you. It's not for anybody else. I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you. And I want you guys to be able to vividly see it, but also to understand the thing so you have fun, right? So I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge, is making sure that the pace doesn't dwindle to a halt. And even if we're having fun with it, we need to make sure that we're not making it boring for everybody else to watch. And then somebody asked me, like, what was one of the biggest challenges there for the dual campaign thing? And that really came down to Satine and I plotting out the whole thing on like a blue sky method of like, well, what are all the crazy things we could do? Because we thought that we were just going to be running the campaign like out of the book. And then they came back to us like, yeah, so, we think, you'll run something adjacent to, whatever. And we came up with that entire storyline all the way through. Like, you guys just finished some of the things that we had planned for the first season. We planned all of that in less than a week. So coming up with that, going from blue sky and trimming it down, and then as you guys are going through the campaign, chipping away at things or completely not taking a road that we had planned, and still having multiple things happening around the outside, because as you guys know, I'm very big about multiple factions moving towards the same goal, and if you guys dilly-dally too long, you miss it. It's not there. And it's an interesting mix there. So let's see. We definitely tried to. I mean, like I definitely tried to make sure that it was as much of a home game as it could be. Other online DMs can be a little more railroady. And other players can be a little bit more intent on what is the story specifically. So every table you play at is going to be different, and every cast of players, every DM. So we need to make sure that our ecosystem matches. Like, our game is never going to be the same as Critical Role. Our game is never going to be the same as High Rollers. but that's okay because it's our unique way of playing, and people need to see that there are different ways to play. There is no one way. And you know, if somebody tells you you're fun wrong, they're the ones that are not having fun, because we had a blast.
Yeah.
And for me, the most rewarding moment of the entire thing was when, at the end, I know I've already said it, but at the end when you go, what, he was working for him the whole time?
Oh my God, it blew my mind. I was like, oh.
Because those are the moments that I live for, is when you guys
Right.
connect the dots of all the things that I've laid out, and I'm just like, well, you know, people don't necessarily have to find it to appreciate the game. It's okay, it's fine. But so you
But
actually,
if they do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. People wanted to know, what do you think the next season's going to be called?
Are you going to change the name again? Is that decided on?
Well, so we had the map to ruin in the first one, right? And it was Fury's Reach because it was the dual campaign, and it was the reach of the specific
The two
storyline.
stories coming together.
Right. So we had map to ruin, and we had path to adventure, or freedom of adventure.
Yeah.
It's freedom of adventure. So then, because Satine started Sirens of the Realm and had that all-girl bard band, we wanted to shift the name away because we didn't want to confuse people that Fury's Reach was supposed to be the dual campaign.
Right.
And that's not to say that they're not still interlaced, but Sirens was just a name that we had actually thought of for the initial, for Fury's Reach way back when, and we loved it. So we wanted to make sure that actually got its due. So if this stays Fury's Fate, if it changes to something, what do you think? Because it should still, I hopefully will still have all of you back for it when we get to kick back up later in the summer. But
Fury's Reach.
Fate of the Furious. I say
There's
it
one.
every time.
there's one. Chat, if you guys have any ideas.
There isn't one that's better.
Yeah, maybe not. If you guys have any other ideas, go ahead and throw them down in chat.
Yeah.
Too fake.
What was, let's see, you had a question you wanted to ask them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna see what kind of stories would you guys want to take the group into? I would love to take everybody with Reef on the lead into like one of the Fallen Cities.
Okay, so say the question again.
The question was, what stories would you guys like to take the group into? And like I said, I would like to take the group with Reef in the lead into one of the Fallen Cities.
Oh, okay, like Omu?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would want to, well, I mean, Lepad's, like, now he knows about the golden croak, or the gold, or the, yeah.
That's it.
And, you know, so now that's his main goal. So I mean, he would obviously like to take everybody to sort that out. That would be very Grome-centric.
Yeah, there's good names that are flowing in here, so keep bringing those in. And if you have any more questions, now's the time to ask them. What about, what else? Anybody else want to answer his question?
I thought, although they were extremely frustrating, in season 1 when we had like 2 episodes that were very survival based, I thought that was a really fascinating kind of like change up of mechanics for a D&D game. I would love to do a game that's entirely just like in the forest in Chult, just like we gotta live. That's
The
it.
crash plane, the crash
We
ship, you gotta make your way across.
We're just gonna like look around, see if we find cool stuff, and try not to die.
You want to do Arc?
Yeah, I want to do.
on Chult?
Yeah,
And they're
Chult
all
Arc, yeah.
naked.
Everybody's naked, and
Just
they've
like-
got
And
weird
afraid.
little beep beeps on their
Yeah, and like have you guys build up your own fort and everything like there, and then realize like 2 seasons in that there's actually like a port city like just like, right outside the hill. If
There's
you guys
another
had
group
just
with
gone a
another
little
camp.
farther.
They set our camp on fire. We have to start all over. And
That would
Don't
be
worry, I
great.
got the boat.
And if we had a bigger studio and we could have you guys come in and have like, I would totally do like a Family Feud style game where you guys would go back and forth. Like
oh my god,
we would,
Oh.
and it would still be randomized initiative.
Oh.
But you guys could fight each other. Yeah, randomized initiative has been, that was one thing that we started with in this season. Both Satine and I did that after doing, kind of playing around with the Greyhawk initiative and stuff like that, but we love randomized initiative because
I loved it.
I think it makes the engagement, like everybody knows that like they could come up next. But I do think that it's still important to do, hey, you're on deck.
Right.
Because it
Yes.
gives people a chance to say, okay, I need to listen to what's going on, but it also gives people a chance, okay, I need to think about what I'm going to do.
I thought
right
that
now.
helped a lot too with
Yeah.
your efforts to make things move along. Is
Pacing.
is to say like, you are talking now, but you need to think about when it's your time to talk.
Right.
I thought
Yeah.
that helped.
Then you start the countdown.
Yeah, so was
Down.
that one of the things that always like I worry about is being too aggressive with you guys.
No, because I'm very impatient too, so I kind of appreciate it.
You appreciated when I got to the point where I was like,
remember one of like the first episodes. Again, Alex and I normally like left together, and I remember Alex being like, "Does Rudy really hate Sig?" And I was like, "No, they're fine." But I do feel like you wound up pulling that out on Sig so often. I felt so bad for you.
No, actually, I like it because it ramps up the stakes. It makes it exciting because like it also your character wouldn't have time to sit there and be like, no, am I gonna hit this man?
Should I
Let
use
me think about
flurry
this
of
because I have
blows
a
or
little
not?
watch
I
that
just-
freezes time. You know, it's like it moves along. It makes it exciting because then you have to make the choice, and your character would have to make the choice in the split second, and that's when you make wrong decisions and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's like how it would happen, how it would actually play out.
I considered using like the idea of bringing one of the little like
Egg
1 minute egg timers.
Oh,
Like a
God.
little, but then I also thought like maybe I should just do an alarm on my phone so that you guys actually don't know how long you have left.
Oh gosh. Right.
Like putting it behind the DM screen so nobody knows.
I don't know if that would be fun.
Well, what I would do is if I did that, I would let the alarm go off and then I would go, okay, 5,
You're right.
4. I wouldn't like be like, nah.
You're done.
Yep.
But the egg timer, if when that last send went, I'd be like, all right, that was that.
Yeah.
The only downside of the egg timers there is that you have to let them drain all the way before you flip it back over. So
Get a
it just,
digital one,
Yeah.
just reset it.
you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's an app for that.
Yeah, I think the only issue that I had with the countdown was that at first, because I was playing a new subclass and there were things that I wasn't able to ask you before we went on air, it was like, you know, I didn't want to delay anybody, so I kind of just ran through it, and I wish I could have clarified certain things. But I know you and I had talked later, and once we talked and it was okay to ask for clarification,
Yeah.
for that, then it became easier. But at first, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a move. Hopefully, it works.
Right.
I've never played a D&D character that's this high level.
Oh, yeah?
So that's been super fun, but you're right, there's so much to way more to keep track of.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm so effective if I can remember all of it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm used to being level 3 or 4. Level
yes,
8, I have never been a
exactly.
level 8.
I've never been level 8
So it's
either.
exciting.
Oh, wow.
It's really fun.
What's your highest character, Kyle?
You don't want to go there.
Yeah. Kyle's had an 18. Kyle ran an 18-year game.
Still running.
Still running an 18-year game.
It's actually pushed at 19 now.
Yeah.
But the longest was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, the highest level characters from when I was a kid. Yeah.
Well, my first character in Adventures League is capped out at this point. So he's hit the 20 thing. My first one for 5e has hit that. So if that tells you like how much I used to play in
Right.
conventions, and I haven't played since before Storm King's Thunder. So which is when I met Satine and we started this thing.
Right.
So I had that thing capped out by the end of Strahd.
Well, in first edition, there wasn't caps.
Yeah, there wasn't a cap.
And so,
So that doesn't count.
I've got characters that go to the hundreds.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
I never had a game last that long.
Yeah.
No.
Well, hopefully.
this is
my
what happens when
longest
you
game.
play like every day, like a couple times a day, like lunch and after school. And
Yeah.
it just stacks up.
Hopefully you guys will get to advance further. I will tell you that when we start the next season, you will be level 9 because you survived and made your thing.
Leveled up.
Right. So that's an incentive to make sure that we pop back in too, is that you guys will get to play with whatever your new toys are. Reef, I believe you get a new one at 9. So some of the names we've got here so far that people have put out, Fury's End,
What?
No,
but I don't
that's
think
good.
that would
That's
have
serious.
to,
I don't like the
it's too-
implication.
right?
Only if it's a question mark.
And?
Fury's Folly.
Oh,
Oh.
That sounds like a silly season.
Yeah,
That'd be
not
fun,
at all
though.
like the one we
Also
have.
No.
Fury's Edge. I'm a big fan of that one.
That's
Okay.
That's cool.
Fury's Frog, the Lapad story.
That's a spin-off.
Would
Yeah,
Fury's Flipper be for Ed?
maybe. Fury's Fens.
Fury's Fence?
Fury's
Do I have flippers?
Shells.
I
No.
don't think you do.
You would have like the little
Like
webbing.
webs.
Fury's Web. Let's see. Fury's lost, Fury's hope, Fury's found, Fury's fortune. That's a good one.
Did you hear Sig's though?
What was Sig's?
What was mine?
It was like
What?
two fate.
Oh, I was just kind of like, yeah, two fate, two furious.
But what about the Fast and the Furious
That's
goofs?
good. Yeah, that's good. Fury's doom, Fury's embers, Fury's heart, abyss, tomb, Fury's maze, Fury's toast, Fury's ham and cheese.
Fury's
ham and
breakfast.
cheese- Yes, Fury's ham and cheese and eggs. Fury's pinnacle. That'll be a good one for
Oh,
later.
that's
Furiosa.
nice.
Furiosus.
The Furiousest.
The Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Furious, and Furious.
Fury's fury.
So, outside of that is, let's see, I think I had a couple more little things, but did anybody have any other questions, anything you guys wanted to ask each other? Maybe anything you want to put to the audience?
Oh, I got one. What's one piece of information that's in your background that we would never come across, but you find it's fun?
Nope, vetoed.
Spoilers.
No? Okay.
Yeah, that's vetoed.
Spoilers.
But we can say, what is the thing that you did reveal that you feel like got swept under the rug? Like nobody even like paid attention to you, or like it got said during a thing, because at least that's out there and that's not going to spoil anything for anybody
Oh, okay.
specifically.
I don't think a lot of the reveal stuff that Reef has done have been like major plot points. So I don't think that there's been a moment where I've.
How about this? We did cover what happened between, like, what made Ivan, what made his character, Johan, hang up his adventuring boots and just start writing about you. Do you remember when you guys talked about that?
Oh, it was that when we went on an adventure together and he hurt himself.
Right, and
Yeah.
you had hurt yourself and he was trying to carry you back.
And then he hurt himself, and I, while still hurt, had to swap with him and then just carry him back. And he was like, "I'm not cut out for this."
Right, and like his was like a boo-boo and yours was like a broken leg.
Yeah, and he was like, I can't walk. And I was like, all right, God, come on. Yeah, I would love the opportunity to play with Ivan again.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He's so fun.
He is rumored to be in talks for season 3
Oh.
in summer, but that's just a rumor.
We like to start rumors.
Yes,
Yes.
they're fun. We'll see how things align for that. What, let's see, what about you, Kim? Anything that you think came out about your backstory that got brushed under the rug?
I think a lot of my backstory didn't come out though.
Mm-hmm.
I think she sees Zindar as kind of like a paternal figure, which it wasn't really touched upon. I can speak 5 languages,
We did find that out.
but that's because I announced it. Well, you kind of just said I have something to do with a court, which we never talked about.
Right.
That much.
And did how much of that actually ever came out though? Like, did we ever?
Almost none.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
medium high born. We found that out.
Medium
Yeah.
high born. My character is written as being kind of a diplomat, but I'm bad at it, so maybe we'll change that.
Well, yeah, but you also were more of a. Well, we will talk about that later.
Okay.
So I feel like you had a lot that came out about your backstory that we didn't have a chance to explore, but
Yeah.
it did get said. Like, it did get talked about, but it did get brushed under the rug. What's something that you had, and Sig, you're on deck?
Actually, I felt the opposite. I think whenever things happened to Emporo's background, like they were so well framed that people like tended to react like, "Oh my God, that!" And like Dodger's reaction was like awesome. I think the one thing that might have gotten swept under the rug, but happened actually on Sirens of the Realms, where Emporo talked about this is his birth name and Emporo isn't.
And one of the things I think that was a quick thing, too, was that, or I guess I wanted to ask you specifically, was in episode, I think, 11, whatever, we had 12, right?
12.
Yeah, okay.
The You're My Father episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you
was-
thought that was your father.
I thought
you
when I-
demanded to speak to your father.
Yeah.
And then you found out in the season finale it wasn't.
Right.
And it was in fact your
My stepbrother.
stepbrother.
Right.
Now, did anybody else think it was odd that this random wizard that's a part of your group for like helping drag the frog out of the dining establishment just happens to have his family involved in the?
This is,
I
this is
didn't
why the
know.
Zindar reveal was not quite so revealing to me. I was like,
You just revealed that you were married. I didn't know your character was married.
Yeah, I didn't know
that never
either.
came up.
Yeah, it didn't
I
come
want to
up.
know about that. What's his name? Tell me everything.
Go ahead. What's his name?
His name is Sigbalt. And he was a dropout from wizardry school and decided to take up painting. And I thought he stole paintbrushes. He also stole my heart. And then he went missing.
What? See, more
Wait, he's
reveals.
missing now?
He's missing now. And so when
Presumed
Zoro's
dead.
the most tragic character out of all of them.
Missing, presumed dead.
presumed dead. So when Zindar said, you know, you have to owe me a favor, he's like, okay, then I can't do anything about my husband right now. So it's at least something that I can do to distract me. I'm just gonna come home, and I'm also gonna deal with all of these things.
I think one thing that was touched on where I was like, I kind of want to know more about that, but maybe Reef already knows about it, was when you met your faction bro that you killed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to know more about that faction and
yeah,
like
there's-
what was going on there, but it wasn't something that had a reason to come up again. So
Well, so he was just talking about Zindar, like saying, you owe me, da-da-da-da. That whole portion of why he was involved with you guys goes back to that connection. So
Okay.
that if that comes out, that should come out in game, I think.
okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a fun. There's so much connectivity in Emporo's story, which is interesting considering he's the last person to join the group.
Yeah.
Which we deliberately, obviously, we deliberately planned that Alex would come in after you had your chance to get your feet wet, and then you would come in after Alex. And some of that was because of cast schedule and timing, and then some of that was because it was just, I thought it was cooler to do it that way, to introduce new characters into a group to see what the ecosystem would look like after they,
But the great part about my background is that a lot of it is actually in the journals that we write. So if you visit the Patreon where you see all of my stuff, it's all in there. You would know some of these things, and you probably figured out that Zindar is who he was in my letters.
Yeah, they have code names for each other because of some of the stuff that happened in the past that he owes him for. So, check those out. Like I said, Dice Camera Fan has actually been dropping those onto the Reddit, the Maze Arcana subreddit, afterwards, after they go live, because we put them up on Patreon for everyone to get it first that are our patrons, and then like a week later they come out for everybody to read. So those have been getting dropped on there, and some people have been able to do it every week, and some people just can't because that's life. And like any D&D game, that's a thing that you roll with. So the Sig, what was your thing that got breezed over?
I don't know. Well, a big part of Lepad's story was the Agagrimgrum arc, and I feel like that pretty much got a nice little wrap up. So I mean, I can't really think of anything that got missed or anything.
You never put on your eye patch, right?
No, I didn't. Yeah, that is one thing that I wanted to do, but we went right from that to boss fight. So
What are you doing?
yeah,
Steepling.
I know. Well, I know.
Steepling really hard.
I learned my lesson from dealing with the dagger that I'm not going to try to experiment with a magical eye patch running through a hostile environment. So
I put on the coat.
You did, and
True.
that is not cursed.
You put on the coat when we were at the campfire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
so-
slap it on, whatever. Do
But
it.
see,
that's
did you see this? I think I made the right call of not putting it on.
Yo,
don't think
I want to
so.
know what's
No?
up with those gloves. Those gloves that
Yeah.
kind of form to
Oh,
your hand, but not
the
quite.
glove and the other glove that
I thought they were for maybe you,
have to put 'em
me,
both on.
or Alex, since we don't have the same sort of hands as you.
you have to put them
I
both
thought maybe it was for a giant.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that you had to have them
You
both.
have to have
Like
both.
a-
Oh,
And I just didn't
Yeah,
have the other one out yet.
Did you end up getting both of them together?
No, not at the same time.
Don't let Kyle hoard your magic items, people.
oh, you're right.
Yeah, but I can tell you that you and Alex would not need them.
It's to see in the dark.
It's to
To
swim.
see in the dark, like
They're
this.
swimming gloves.
It's to swim.
The,
It's to have.
No, because then Sig would be.
Yeah, he can
included
swim too.
So it's not a swimming thing.
the
I don't know.
the thing that I think that got skimmed over that I think we could explore more was the past of Reef and Rodriguez.
Oh, your relationship.
Oh yeah, that
That-
did kind of fall a little aside when Dodger had to leave for a little bit, and we were so far into the furious portion of catch up that didn't get as much attention as it had before, which was you guys. Some of that stuff was some of the funniest stuff that we got to play with
yeah, totally.
during the
I like
campaign.
the reaction that they had when I said, "Yeah, she does this. This is one of the reasons why we don't go out anymore." And they're like, "You went out?"
Yeah.
I really liked. I can't remember what that ability is called. The one that gave me an attack.
Oh, the commanding strike.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that stuff
yeah.
is great.
Every single
awesome.
time you gave that to me, just being like, "I've got this. Leave me alone."
was really
Was it like episode 1 or when you guys were just drunk and talking? Like that was some of my
Yeah.
favorite roleplay of the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
season. Like it was so
That
good.
was so
yeah.
good.
My mom watched that episode. She was like,
You're
And we-
very good at pretending to be drunk.
We hadn't really
all
worked
acting.
most of those details out. We were just literally just flinging
It was
back.
Yeah.
awesome.
That
It
was
so
great.
good.
Yeah,
That
and it was
was
great
fun.
to not there was not a whole lot that during the game I don't think that I really had to be like, like I didn't really have to stop you guys from doing much. Right, and that's like you said, like what's one of the things for DMing for a live stream versus that is that like sometimes I know that there's story stuff that's coming through and whatnot, but I don't have to really. You guys are so good at playing that I don't have to censor you, and I don't even necessarily mean for story stuff, but like because we keep everything here very PG. We
Yeah.
try not to go. Like we want the mission statement is to be able for Satine's 2 little nephews to sit down and watch it with their mom just being like, "Okay, go watch Auntie Satine," and then leave. You know, so that's kind of part of our mission that we want everybody to be able to watch us play D&D. So you guys were great. There's been a couple of times when I've had to be like, "Arr!" like I hear you going, "Yeah," and then shoot, and I'm like, like just making noises during the thing so it doesn't bleep out
So
there.
you need a remote mute on the mic, is what you need.
Right.
Random bird squawk.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Not as much. Okay, so if you guys have any other questions, we're going to go ahead and hit those and then probably let everybody go home.
Here's a question for you.
For me? Okay, go for it.
Did you ever think satchels would be that important?
The chat
'cause I know
made
about
satchels important.
Well, I know that you took that and ran with it for that subplot that we really haven't totally played with yet.
The subplot of the satchels being important for the...
But yeah.
For
the stuff that we were pumping into in this episode. Sorry,
Well,
this series.
if you anybody that's been to the Maze Arcana Twitch or that follows Satine and I on Twitter, you would know that we have been writers for D&D, and that some of the content that we wrote pertains to this latest season here in Tomb of Annihilation. I wrote A Day at the Races, and Satine wrote A Walk in the Park, and they are the precursor to the satchels that you guys found. So not only is this storyline interwoven back and forth between itself, but if you've played Adventures League, or even if you're playing Tomb of Annihilation, we've interweaved it all. So that was Satine and I putting a lot of effort into making the storylines for the modules that we were lucky enough to write coincide with what we were doing in the campaign.
Right.
And we had a lot of fun doing that. And then watching you guys kind of like move alongside it. Did anybody actually get to play in the modules at all yet?
Read 'em.
You've read it? Yeah, so that'll be fun maybe one day before we have our full comeback. I'll run, or we'll run those 2 games for you guys so you can see them.
Was that the one shot we did that
Nope.
time? No, it was a different one.
Different one.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
close.
okay.
But Day at the Races definitely had a little bit of of you guys in the races, actually as part of the peripheral thing that DMs could narrate about like the Illusionatron and
Nice.
stuff like that the gnomes were dealing with.
Nice.
Anything else? And I'll check here for any other ones.
So that's why the satchels are important.
Yeah, well, and that is something where chat directly influenced that because they made the satchels a big deal
Right.
during Fury's Reach, and so we were like, oh well, we have to write something in about the satchels and the satchel shop and like stuff like that. So you guys literally had something to do with the creation of plot points in the Adventures League, because we just love you guys so much. Do you want to try and step through? Satine's coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Satine, well, I was actually going to say, do you want to answer one of these questions that kind of came along as a dual? Like, no. She gave me a.
Answer's no.
The answer's no. Question, Rudy, when are we going to get to see some one-shots with you and Satine as players? And then put the chibi Satine at the end. Good job. Maybe Wednesday. And not today, obviously.
Not this one.
Right now, this has been a one-shot the whole time.
Right. So Kyle is actually, if anybody is a fan of Eberron, if anybody is a fan of seeing Satine and I play, it won't be a one-shot per se, but it'll be a close character arc where Satine and I will be playing in Eberron game here that Kyle is running on to take this Wednesday slot. And we'll endeavor for some fun times on those. And then maybe later in the summer or sometime in the early fall, Wongrung might maybe come back. We don't know yet, but we've been told that it's not over.
It's not super dead.
Right, but then I know how DMs are, and we're always like, it's not over.
It's never over.
Yeah. And they want to know when Dodger's gonna run us a game.
Oh gosh, I've never ran a D&D game. I've always ran other like types. So I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll do it on Maze Arcana and just run it as a whatever game you want to play.
That'd be fun. Yeah, like a simple one.
Yeah, something, anything you want.
Cool.
Let's
As
see.
long as it's not darts.
As long as it's not darts.
Those hurt.
Let's
Thank
see.
you.
Thank you, Mom.
And none for Kyle. Bye.
That's a Mean Girls reference.
Oh, the obvious answer. The obvious answer to what is your next? What is the next campaign called? It's Fury's Satchel.
I do
That's
like
funny.
Fury's Edge.
Satchel Fury?
And I like Fury's Fortune. I think both of those are
I like
good.
Fury's Pinnacle. I thought that was pretty cool.
You know, like here's, you know, like I hope it would be like my hope, and I think every DM desires for a game to last for years and get to play those things. So it's my hope that we get to go through all of those names.
I'm just dreading
Aw.
the
Even Fury's Ham and Cheese.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm dreading the campaign where we're all stuck in the ziggurat the whole time for Fury Con, and we're all just there.
No!
No, why did you do that? He loves
Now you
it.
gave him ideas.
Loves it. Look at his face.
This,
But
this is why Rudy keeps me
oh,
around.
but I also want to play in that.
This is why
Do
Rudy
you guys
keeps me around.
like? So did you guys pick up on a lot of the mechanics? Because like Satine and I legitimately wrote the mechanics for the ziggurat.
Yeah.
Like that's not something that's in TOA. We're actually probably going to put it out in something else. But the mechanics for a headache-inducing strip mall. Oh, thank you.
The old 80s style internal malls.
I mean, it was
God,
inspired
Andre's
by.
face.
I used to live in a town that had a paper mill not too far away, and if you drove like about 10 minutes across my town, you could start to smell the paper mill, and the Joann's Fabrics or something was like right there,
Okay.
and that's where my mom went to go get the fabrics
Stuff.
for sewing and whatever.
Right.
And so probably once a month, I would have to go after school with them to like next to the paper mill and go through a dirty strip mall and just be like the headaches that you have from that, and then riding in a warm car in the humidity of Florida.
I just imagine like Johan making the panel appearances at the con in the mall, and yeah, just terrible things.
A whole new set of mechanics for FuryCon.
Yeah.
Not that any of us ever been to enough cons to know how those work. Or
No,
anything.
Yeah.
totally not.
Maze Arcana.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
I have a visual
That was my
reference
joke
for
on Sunday.
like for that mall because like in the Philippines there are like such mega
Super
malls.
mega mall?
They're super mega malls, and one of them is kind of like ziggurat-ish. And I remember being in that mall, and I remember looking at everything. I was like, oh my god, why would you shop in any of these stores? How would I just remember being overwhelmed, like being in the center of that place. So I have a real world preference for
Yeah,
that mall.
same.
And just thinking like just 2 hours to go through 2 levels of it, and like you could not find anything. Even if it's all out there, the only thing you could find was the food court.
Yeah.
That was the only thing you find.
Somebody just gave us another one. Grungeons and satchels. That's funny.
Well, if we
That'll
do
be
it-
Sig running. When Sig runs
Yeah.
one bar.
If we do it in a bar, it could be grunges and flagons.
Yeah, but we do have Mod who has I think it's Dungeons and Flagons. Oh, Fungeons and
Dungeons and
Flagons.
Flagons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so one more time, I will tell you guys about, make sure that if you enjoy the content that we got to play through this season and last, and you enjoy Satine's Sirens of the Realms, and you love to see those ladies singing their tunes, go ahead and drop a subscribe here. Let D&D know that you're enjoying the programming. Go ahead and drop a follow if you aren't already, and get some of the sweet emotes from the subs. And then also hop over to our other respective channels, both Dex Bonus and to Maze Arcana and sub, because we have some pretty dope kitties.
And Sig Channel.
Well, Sig, did you get your partnership yet?
No, but I have an emote. It's just my face going. with
Yeah,
the-
you've got you've got an awesome emote. I love that emote. I would
It works
almost
for so
steal
many
that emote.
situations. Just
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, I think you get that just by following, or is that only
that's
available
it
on your
for
own?
sub.
It is
Yeah,
for a
'cause
sub, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an
Yeah.
affiliate right now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So pop over and watch Sig carve Lapad.
I'll be
Super
painting it.
cool
Is he
stuff.
Are you
Yes.
carving him up? Because I'm hungry.
Yeah. And then if you are not, if you are a Prime member, you can subscribe through Amazon Prime using your Twitch Prime account. You get a freebie every month that you can put towards that to the channels, and that's free. It doesn't cost you anything because you already have Prime. If you want other ways to help out, there's always bits and donations, and you could always come over to our Patreon as well. There are plenty of ways for you to help us keep making great content, whether that's written form or otherwise. So, I will say that we should probably go ahead and wrap it up, and that would conclude this season of Fury's Fate.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, I know, it's sad. But that just starts to give me more time to start planning. And we're going to run a couple games with Kyle, and then we will be back before the summer. It just won't be Fury's Fate initially. We've got some other fun things planned that we probably shouldn't talk about yet. But we'll still be here on Wednesday nights. Yeah.
The CIA won't let us talk about it.
Yeah, the D&D won't let us talk about it yet. Why don't you go ahead and say goodbye? If you have anything, now's your chance to tell the people of the world.
I love you guys! And I love the cast too. My name is Ryan Omega. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Ryan Omega. On Twitter, it's Ryan OMGA. I have a LARP podcast called Life Action Roleplay. So you can find us on lifeactionroleplay.com now, since we now have that name. So awesome. You can find us on iTunes. And we just released a new episode today on how to play politics. So if you ever wanted to know how to play a political character of influence in a LARP or kind of in real life, we get very frank about how to socially manipulate people.
Right.
You can listen to the episode. We cover everything in detail.
Hi guys, I'm Dodger, and you can find me at Dex Bonus on pretty much everything. I do a lot of streaming, and I also have a coffee company that you can find at dodgercoffeeco.com. And this has been super fun. And if you guys didn't watch Fury's Reach, you totally should go back and watch it, because those are also very good games.
Explodey.
My name is Kim Horcher. I host a talk show called Nerd Alert. I am also on a political show. This one? This one, okay.
No.
I saw the red light and I was like, this is where I should focus to be.
Oh my gosh,
professional.
I do that too.
Yeah.
I always assume the red light is where I should look.
Yeah.
Should. I'm not sure why it's not
That's
right
what
now.
we're
So I'm on another political show called The Breakdown, which is nominated for 2 Shorty Awards right now. One is for Best Facebook Presence and one is for Best Web Series. And I need you to vote or we don't win.
Say it again. What is that so they
It's
can
at the
vote?
Go to the Shorty Awards website. There's a hyperlink. I don't remember what it is right now off the top of my head. But I am listed under Best Facebook Presence and Best Web Series. And I
Nice.
have
Awesome.
2 things I can't talk about yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
But thank you for having me for my first actualized campaign, because when you said, that reminded me, I've been in campaigns that fizzled out after 1 or 2 and someone just ruined everything. And and this
Yeah,
has been
Lopad.
great. I've had a great time. Not you.
Not this time.
It was really fun playing with you.
Yeah, you were
I
great.
loved
We
it.
really enjoyed. We
So,
really enjoyed playing with
Thank
you.
you for being my friend.
Yeah, that's the best part. Like that's really the best part is you guys. One of the things the reason military people become such good friends is because they go through a lot of stuff together. We go through that here in a different sort of way, but these are stories that we'll hopefully talk about for a long time and at least use as like touchstones when we go into other campaigns.
Do
and
for
whatnot.
decades.
Yeah. Looking at this this thing, Kyle, we should have had you move over behind the two of them early
Yeah.
on. You're just kind of like the floating Kyle.
Just all over.
Go ahead and tell them who you are and where you're at.
So I'm Kyle Boak. You can catch me here starting next week on a new show for a little filler. You'll get to see some interesting stuff when I run with my rules.
They're
You can
different.
also catch me on Funny or Die. I've got a mockumentary series called The Room Actors, Where Are They Now? That is up for a Comedy Ensemble Award for the Indie Series Awards. So, see you there.
Nice.
Cool. Sig, what you got going on?
I'm Sig Neutron. Yeah, follow me on Twitch because that's mainly what I'm doing right now. It's twitch.tv/Sig Neutron. I'll be finishing up Lopad the next few days, so I might stream tomorrow. If not, probably sometime this weekend.
Once he's done, when will we buy him?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to keep him now because I'm like, oh. But yeah, twitch.tv/Sig Neutron, and you can find me at Sig Neutron on all the social medias and stuff. And yes, it was a total pleasure playing with all you guys. And like I said earlier, you guys all brought something really awesome to the group, and I only wish we had more time to really explore those characters more. But it was a ton of fun.
You guys will. The next one, there's no way we get through, and like what I've got planned for the next thing, there's no way we get through it in 12 episodes. So it'll definitely be a longer arc for what we have. Hopefully starting in maybe, well, we'll just say in the back half of the year. So you guys have been wonderful to play with. Well, I guess before I get sappy on that, one more time, you guys were wonderful about letting me talk about my sibling who got surgery, and we supported her the way that we support the entire community with the inclusivity, and that's a huge thing for us is making sure that everyone knows that they're included. We're not here to stack on diversity and make other people feel like they're not welcome by that word. It's inclusivity, and that's all there is. And we're super excited to be able to go to every con and champion that, and to have everyone say that they're so excited that someone like Satine or someone like me or a cast like you guys are helping them to step up to the table and roll their first set of dice, or to get behind the screen for the first time. And people that would have never done it before, not because necessarily they were scared, but because they didn't think that this was a community that wanted them. Mm-hmm. And so you guys have gone a long way in showing everyone here that of course we want you. You're a voice, and you're going to play, and you're going to have fun with us. Like, it's all about the fun. Let's do that. Less is not more in that scenario. And so, I set up the GoFundMe for Robin's top surgeries. So if you guys would like to donate to them, you can also check out the amazing music that they make, and we run it on our breaks and stuff like that as well. It's really kind of mind-blowing, especially the new EPs that just came out. Getting notice that you would probably get for feature film stuff. So yeah, pretty fancy.
Awesome.
So now to you guys, thank you so much for coming and being a part of my game and giving it, like, breathing life into it, because like me would be sock puppets or something otherwise.
I'd watch that.
I would
also watch
sure
that.
be in the pad tuck. No, with a little yishnak.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Jump.
Oh, give me the jag. No.
The egg says no.
Now I see the
Listen to egg. Sing to egg.
the Lepad,
That was awesome.
Yeah.
the Lepad and Yishnak comic strip drawn like sock puppets.
Yeah, that's gonna be a thing. That's some fan art I want to see.
I like the Calvin and Hobbes style.
Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes,
But
Lepad and
sock
Yishnak. So, like, guys, you guys were awesome, and I hope that we get to continue this. As many of us can make it back for things. Obviously, we're going to have to put out some bait for Alex to make it back.
Egg, need egg.
Need
The
egg.
egg.
But I hope that you guys all enjoyed the campaign, and I hope that I wasn't too hard on you, and that
Super fun.
good, good. Yeah, it made me feel really good when you're like, no, I drive all that way because it's fun.
Satine didn't know, and she and I like went and grabbed food, and she was like, "Where are you living now?" And I told her, and she was like, "That's so far away."
It is. It's really far.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
Yeah. So you guys are super fun, and thank you for making it fun for me and giving me a lot of smile and joy and a reason. Like, there was not a time when I was sitting there going, God, I don't want to plan this next thing. I just can't. I just don't feel like it. Like, you guys always, I was always like, oh, I wonder how this character's going to react to this. I wonder how this is going to, oh, I've got this for Reef, and then you didn't show, and I'm like, okay, well, I wonder who's going to bite that one.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I wonder if Kyle's going to, there was one time I think I said something to Satine, and I was like, well, I guess Kyle will get that, or whatever. And then it was not Kyle at all. It was somebody else like the entire other time. So you guys, thank you for coming and watching, because you help enable us to do these kind of things with your subs, your donations, even just telling WotC how much you enjoy this. We thoroughly enjoy making these things with you and for you. And we thank you for your contributions to everything that we're doing too, because having Satchel be a thing is awesome. Having that, the hashtag Satchel, hashtag Pretzel Quest was great. There's the next app of Yishnok and Reef running through trying to do that. So new stuff will be coming up on D&D's Twitch channel here, coming very soon. And you always have to tide you over a little show called Critical Role. So we'll see you guys very soon. And thanks for watching. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Oh, shoot, you didn't go out yet, did you? Good.
Oh,
Just kidding.
What is happening?
sorry about that.
Just kidding.
JK.
I completely forgot that I really, really, really would be remiss without, I know that we have these up here all day long, all of our sponsors up there, but we couldn't do a lot of these things. We couldn't afford to do a lot of these things, or couldn't make them look the quality that we did. We did a pretty good job with webcams, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very proud of what we were able to do with webcams.
The early days?
In the early days.
Yeah.
But these amazing cameras that we have that give you guys such a crystal clear view of what we're doing, the sound effects that Sirenscape provides, Cinema 4D helping out with the awesome intro that we had for Fury's Reach, and we just never got the assets that we needed to swap over for Fury's Fate, which makes me a little sad, but that's okay. And you know, we've just been super lucky to have Dungeons and Dragons, you know, pluck us up and say, hey, we like the way you guys play, and that's basically from Satine and I's convention stuff. You know, we like the way you guys play. Do you want to do these things? And we get to bring our friends along. But you know, Wormwood even still has a code if you go and type Maze Arcana. No, it's Arcanite.
Arcanite.
If you go and you type in Maze, or if I'm tired, guys. If you go in and type Arcanite, you get free shipping to anywhere in the continental U.S. And Idle Champion's been giving us codes every week, and I applied for the code, but I think I did it a little bit too late, so I don't know if we were going to have that. I was going to make that a reward for everybody that stuck around. So anyway, thank you guys for being around and for listening to me talk about our awesome sponsors. And now we will leave you for the evening.
Everyone say goodbye over here.
Bye.
Oh,
Goodbye.
bye.
Over there?
Nailed it.
Bye.
Goodbye over there.
Bye.